Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion plays the Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. 18 wins in a row. It's like a little baby streak. It's just giving me a terrible idea. Okay, don't leave yet. 3, 2, 1, baby streak. Z6, C6, VGLR. Let's take a look. It's been a few days. My new, the way I play Isaac now, or the way my YouTube week is scheduled, I oftentimes have a few days where I don't even play any Isaac. I know, it sounds bizarre. You know, I'm the guy who only plays Isaac. Now, Isaac takes up, 15-20% of my week. It's nothing. So I gotta take a little bit to get myself back warmed up here. It's not the longest streak that anybody could ever ask for, but things are going pretty well, I would suggest. I'm just gonna avoid picking up that Spirit Heart temporarily, because if I'm gonna take damage, I wanna take damage early. Before I lose... before I pick up the Spirit Hearts. I mean, right now it's very, very unlikely, for example, that I would die. I would have to get hit 2 times on the same room by champions, or 4 times total by non-champions. I'm not saying it's never happened, but if you look at the last few years of Isaac play, that would be a pretty large dereliction of duty. Let's put it that way. Also, if there's a self-sacrifice room, we can kind of lean on it for a little bit of HP. Anyway. How's the run so far? I mean, I really can't complain, honestly. HP is fine. Stats are basically about average. And we start with a spacebar item. That's okay. And I like the apple as far as items go. I believe it's a tiers upgrade, right? So I should be at least a little bit thankful for the fact that it's hooking me up there. Please. Oh, dude, he's going to give me bombs. He's guaranteed to give me some form of bomb. Even just getting that one is fine. So we go back this way. And, a stone chest is always tempting. But I'm going to try to shoot the moon, high jump the broom. Like a preemie out the womb. My partner yelling too soon. Don't do it. Reconsider. Read some literature on the subject. I can't hit that line. I'm sorry. I don't have the big boy cadence. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about a Brace Yourself Games Necrodancer plus The Legend of Zelda crossover. Little horn do 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 do. Okay, no. I'm feeling good. It's Wednesday. We always got to do a Days of the Week segment. When was the last, probably the last video? I'm trying to think of when I recorded Isaac last. It might even have been Friday or something like that. I try not to hit you with the inside baseball too much, but it really has been nice to replace one Isaac a day with, another sort of video. It just opens the week up, so... recording 7 Isaac episodes is substantially less than a single day's work. But somehow there's a weird, I don't know what the property is here. There's an agglomeration. Recording 14 Isaac episodes is 100 days work. I feel like I have more mental space now. I feel like my Isaac play, I don't want to say has gotten better, but I feel like I'm in a better mood in my Isaac play at the very least, and maybe over time that could translate into, sustainability. Instead of trying to burn the candle at both ends, we burn it at one end and then it lasts twice as long. I mean, also, let's not forget, how are you even supposed to burn a candle at both ends? It doesn't make any sense. One end is the wick and then the other end is usually put into some kind of holder or a cup. It's another idiom that just doesn't make sense to me. We as English speakers, we should demand better idioms. Most of these idioms were made in the 1500s. Doesn't make any sense anymore. To constantly be talking about burning the candle at both, burning the midnight oil. What the heck does that even mean? What we should be saying is taking the midnight train going anywhere. I'm feeling pretty good. Had a pretty... I would say a pretty not good night's sleep, but, you just, I'm not trying to say, I'm some kind of Superman here, but just sort of quit your bellyache and get over it, right? The only reason, I went to bed at a normal time, but then I woke up at 5:30 a.m. because one of my cats threw up. Might as well pick it up at least. And then I cleaned it up and I was making sure he's okay. He's fine. After you after he throws up, I clean it up, and I'm like, I feel terrible. And then he's like rubbing himself up against chairs and tables and stuff like that, being like, I feel relief now. And it's true. I can't deny, you know. It's been a long time since it's been a decent amount of time since I've thrown up. I'm definitely at that Seinfeld point in my life where I gotta think back to, like, you know, what year was the last time I threw up. But I remember, the feeling you get right after, and this is I don't think this is gross, but I understand on the internet people are very sensitive to stuff like this. I'm gonna say the word vomit if that bothers you. If you don't like it, Napoleon, you can leave. The feeling right after you vomit is actually amazing. Not because you're like, ooh, that was fun, but because you've ejected poison from your body that made you feel like trash. And then when you actually get it out there, you still feel pretty bad, but you feel so much better than you did a quarter of a second ago that it's like, it's a dream come true. I'm not saying you should pursue vomiting in real life. I mean, it's obviously extremely bad for you and is almost always a consequence. You know, as an adult, what do you think the percentage, like for the average adult, what do you think the percentage of self-inflicted vomits versus like there's nothing I could do, dude, vomits are? I feel like probably like 80 to 90% of adult vomits are self-inflicted via alcohol consumption. I'm being sincere when I say that. As someone who's gone through the typical collegiate experience, it maybe even skews a little closer to 100%, but I remember and you know, I'm not gonna go into like belabor the point of like gross details or anything like that, but I remember the worst vomiting experience I ever had in my life was actually when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and people have told me that there's no way this could happen. Let me take a little coffee here first too. But I know what I felt, okay? I woke up, it was summer vacation, and I woke up like before my grandparents. I was staying at my grandparents. We lived in a split house. My grandparents lived on the top floor. I lived on the bottom floor with my parents. But I was hanging out, you know, my grandparents, they're part of the house. And, you know, usually around like 9 a.m., everybody would wake up, you know, they'd cook breakfast. There's no excuse that I have for not being able to cook breakfast for myself, except that I lived a very sheltered childhood, for sure. It was only really when I went to college and started, like, being like, well, if I don't eat cook for myself, I'm gonna starve, that I started to gain some form of actual independence, right? So I was so hungry, but my grandma wasn't awake yet. So I waited, and I got, like, the feeling of hunger got, like, so strong that it became, like, nauseating. And then I swear to you, I've never had it happen since, but I got so hungry, I threw up. Now, maybe my little 9-year-old brain, you know, is still developing at that point. Maybe I had some kind of infectious disease that was actually contributing to it. But I swear it had all the hallmarks of hunger. You know, that I don't know how to... Describing the feeling of hunger is weird, but it was like my gut was itchy. It was like, please, scratch me with some delicious toast. I don't know. The only thing I can say in defense of myself is that it's not that I didn't know how to make toast. It's just that she made the toast every morning, you know? What do I know, dude? I was 9. There's a reason you don't put kids on trial, dude. Their brains don't work right. You know, you go, hey, you're accused of drawing on the walls. How do you plead? Not guilty. The cat did it. That's not a coherent defense, you know? Once you reach a certain level of brain development, you can start to, you know, be cross-examined for the reasonings for your actions. But as a child, I refuse. I refuse to give you the satisfaction. It is true, though. Like, I lived a pretty sheltered life, and that's why, or especially as a child, and that's why I bring it up to you guys in case you're in the exact same situation. I know a lot of people... You know, like Austin, for example. Austin and I think, have very similar character development. Because, you know, we're not actual real human beings. We're just characters being played for the purposes of your entertainment. It seems like we, you know, grew up, academically strong. But, you know, maybe didn't learn the necessary, maybe the word I'm looking for without being insulting to him, which would also be insulting to me, is like a little coddle as a youngster. Like as a kid, my parents were definitely like, you know, you don't need to do chores right now. You're smart. You know, you just go to school, get A's, and you know everything else is fine. But what that led to is situations where, you know, my parents, they got way better about it as I reached like, you know, teenagedom. But you know, situations where I was like, you know, 15 or 16 years old, and I was like, Mom, how do I cook soup? And I'm not talking about, you're like, that's pretty tough, dude. Like, you gotta make a mirepoix and blah, blah, blah. No, how do you take a can of soup and then make it edible? And the answer is, you just heat it up. For anybody out there that has never done this, it's not a hard task, okay? You open the can with a can opener, and you can do a couple of things. You can put it in a bowl and put it in the microwave. You can put it in a little pot and then put it on the stove, and then you turn the burner up to like, I mean, there's multiple ways you could do this. Even if you left it on, you know, 1, it'll get there eventually. But you could probably put it on, you know, like medium. There's more than one way to do this, but literally I was like, it's a 25-step process to make soup, right? I realized it's actually like, it's the easiest task in the world. I say this even though it's embarrassing for me to... He's so fast. Even though it's embarrassing for me to remember that at one point, you know, there was a time where I was incapable of basic culinary skills. I say it exclusively to, you know, remind y'all, if you're not in the same position, awesome. You know, I'm jealous, you know. Sometimes I would go over to my friends' houses, you know, they're in like middle school, and they'd be like, hey, do you want, I can like make you a grilled cheese or something. And I'd be like, you know how to cook? That's amazing. We're just little kids. But then, you know, if you're not in that position, if you got a dereliction of those skills that you might need to become, you know, an independent adult at a later date, you can get there. It's not that hard. Basic cooking skills, you can go from 0 to competent in like definitely a month. There's only, and that's, you know, Rob and I, we've talked about it on the show on many occasions. There's only a few, hold on, maybe I can get the stopwatch here. It might help me out. There's only a few cooking skills you need to form like a foundation of being able to cook a lot of meals. There's like basic cookware understanding. What goes into a pan, what goes into a pot, you know, what goes into a baking tray that goes into the oven. I guess like what goes into a freaking wok or something like that. And then there's like, you know, temperatures, what gets cooked super high, what gets cooked super low, and what gets cooked on medium. Spoilers, like almost like probably 85% of ingredients that you're going to make in any meal you make are going to be cooked on medium. I know that people are probably like, well, I make a goopy carbonara. That requires... Okay, of course, but I'm talking like from the most basic level. If you were to cook like a piece of meat and then a carbohydrate-laden side dish. Yeah! Yo, this run's getting a little spotty. Let's be real. And then, I mean, apart from that, it's pretty simple, right? The next step is basically just... knowing how long to cook things so you don't get food poisoning is pretty easy. You know, if you can... And I'm being a little bit overly simplistic, but it always does annoy me when people talk about cooking as if it's like some kind of mercurial skill. It's not annoying because I'm like... I mean, it's only annoying because I'm like, I think you've built it up in your head to be this like kind of... You picture like Saruman in his tower, like, and then I'll add oregano. When really it's just... I mean, for the most part, you can even just go online and Google like blank recipe and then literally just follow the instructions step by step and you'll be A-okay, brother. Oh, here we go. If you could just learn how to use your stove and your oven, everything else is like the easiest thing in the world. You know, like if you were to make steak and, you know, potatoes or something like that. What is that? Well, you just gotta cook a steak. What are the steps in cooking a steak? Well, you go to the grocery store, you buy whatever cut of steak you like, give it a little rub with olive oil on both sides, a generous seasoning of salt and pepper. heat a pan up on medium-high, put it in, I don't know, maybe like 4 minutes each side. You learn there's a little bit of art to it. In the meantime, you know, you're going to preheat your oven a little bit. You're going to cut the potatoes into whatever shape you like. Toss them around with a little bit of olive oil, some salt and pepper. How much salt and pepper? Dude, here's the little secret. You're not working at Le Cordon Bleu. It doesn't really matter. You know how much salt is too much. Don't put that much on. And you're good. You know, you put them in there until they're soft. It's the same as, like, at Korean barbecue restaurants. Sometimes I laugh because, like, they'll have, like, cooking times for the meats. And I'm like, dude, the cooking time for a meat... Like, anything that makes it accessible is fine. I understand some people are intimidated by the idea, like, I'm paying to cook my own meat, but, like, you know, really, it's a super thin piece of, like, you know, beef or something like that. You know when it's ready to be eaten is when you're hungry, when you're sick of watching it. Just eat it, dude. Is fine. You know, it might be slightly pink, but the piece of meat is like, it's as thin as my fingernail. You're not gonna, you know, be chewing on just raw flesh for very long. Anyway, some things are a little different, but hey, it's all just skills you build up, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so this run has, I wouldn't say it's falling apart, but it is much worse relative to the quality of the enemies than it started as. Shoop the Whoop was a real good get, but I would... Like, a tears upgrade or a damage upgrade or a killer tear effect would be a really nice improvement here. We also, I mean, it's our own fault we lost our deal with the Devil Chance. That basically squandered a lot of our built-up momentum, but... And it's everything in life. If there's one skill a skill that allows you to get more skills, and I understand, because I've been on the other side of this coin, and sometimes I still find myself on the other side of this coin. What a shot. I thought, you know, I saw the shot coming in, but I thought, hey, there's a 50% chance it hits me, a 50% chance it misses me. I don't want to be the guy who moves into the shot, because that makes you feel like a dummy. So instead, I'll just stand still and hope that it doesn't hit me, and obviously it's not a good strategy here. The most important skill is don't be afraid to suck at things. This is my 2 cents, at least. Don't be afraid to suck at things, you know? Because it's kind of unavoidable. Everybody who's good at something, you know, if you watch somebody and they've got a real level of mastery, they have that level of mastery because they sucked at it. You know, that's the secret, is that maybe they were better than average when they started, but they're still, like, not good enough to be impressive. Yeah, you ever look at an artist's work on Twitter? Every drawing you see on Twitter, you know... Let me rephrase, okay? Because, like, I think we all, you know, there were people in, like, you know, 3rd grade where we were like, ooh, you're good at art. Here's the thing, though. If we went back and look at those drawings, are those, you know, 9-year-olds actually good at art? No. It's probably garbage, right? But it looks great relative to the average 9-year-old's artwork. So they get incentivized, and they're like, you know, keep going, keep going, keep going. All of a sudden, eventually, they're making something that's actually cool. You know what? Let's, that's a huge one. We actually got some bonuses there. Good DPS improvement is what I mean to say. Let's go back and buy the other item as well once we get 1 extra penny. So don't be afraid to suck. I see it all the time. Like, losing... I've noticed it... I'm kind of looping this back into video game-related context, but I've noticed with Sekiro, and this is not merely a jab at Austin or merely a jab at Mathis, okay? Both of whom are good friends who are entitled to their own opinions. Opinions about Sekiro with which I disagree, but check this out. Mathis has played a lot more Sekiro than I have. He's entitled to not only his opinion, but his opinion is actually based on more evidence than mine is, even though I don't think... You son of a gun! I tried to hold out until the last second there. You know, I don't think my opinion's likely to change, but Mathis has played enough to have his opinion. But, like, a lot of the criticisms I've seen of Sekiro, you know, oh, thank God. For me, they seem to boil down to, like, the skills that worked for me in Dark Souls are not working as well as they worked in Dark Souls as they appear to be working in Sekiro. You know what I mean? Like, it's... Hey, I've got, sorry, I shouldn't use the voice, especially when I'm making fun of people I actually respect. That's a bad habit. But at least I recognized it before I went too far. But, you know, I got 300 hours in the Souls franchise, so I think I'm pretty, you know, good at the game. And then all of a sudden, I'm trying, you know, to lock onto an enemy and circle around them in Sekiro, and they're punishing me for that, and dude, it's too hard. And the only thing I'm gonna say is that I've noticed as people have played more Sekiro and learned the systems a little bit better, a lot of those it's too hard criticisms seem to have fallen by the wayside a little bit, which to me lends credence to my personal pet theory, but again, I don't know. Oh, Technology Zero is so good. I think, okay, I didn't necessarily even want to be here, but dude, we got so lucky, by the way. 2 amazing items on this floor after squandering our deal with the Devil Chance. But anyway, you know, I think some of that, if I can make this in the most, like, no longer video game, instead life-related context, is like, you know, a lot of people, they just hate to think that they're failing at something. Whereas, I don't know what it is, like, doesn't make me better than anybody else, that's for sure. But I don't mind failing. That's why I always laugh when people are like, you didn't beat the boss on the first try. Are you feeling okay? And I'm like, dude, I could do this all day. Losing is like... I think it's a side effect of having been on Twitch for so long, where even if you, like, do something amazing, there's always going to be somebody in chat that's like, well, yeah, he beat the boss on the first try, but he didn't use the Mikiri counter. So, like, even if you win, you're still losing in somebody's eyes. So for me, losing is like, it doesn't bother me at all. Most of the time. Well, that's not true. There's some games where I just hate to lose. But a lot of my criticisms of those games are mad cuz bad. Like, whenever I feel I'm like, Apex Legends sucks, I'm like, why does it suck? And I'm like, well, because I didn't win the last game. So, you know, that's why I keep my mouth shut for the most part. Anyway. I've gotten a little bit up my own butthole about this. I'm just saying, you know, you're never... I think school does some people a disservice, especially if you're, like, naturally, you know, gifted or smart or clever, talented, etc., etc. If you're used to, you know, the teacher coming up with, hey, this is going to be a real tough one, and then you solve it first try, then I think for a segment of the population, it conditions them that, like, they're going to be naturally good at essentially everything the first time that they try it. And if they're not naturally good at something, they have, like, 2 reactions. One is, I can't do this, which is wrong. And the other one is, this thing sucks, which might be right, depending on the thing. But also, you know, kind of... is a crappy attitude in general. Sure, let's do this. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to tell anybody how to live their life, but I think, you know, when it comes to, say, cooking is a great example, I think. Because you never, you know, you're not gonna... It's unreasonable to boot up, like, you know, it's your first time you're ever in the kitchen by yourself, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna make beef Wellington. I've seen it on TV. I'll just follow the steps of the recipe. You know, you can make something that resembles beef Wellington, but it's probably gonna suck. You know, you got a lot of steps there. You got the mushroom sauce that goes around the outside of the beef. You gotta make your own phyllo dough. You know, you gotta... You're baking a large log of meat, so it's always tough to make sure you get it cooked throughout in the consistency and degree you want it to be cooked at. You know, there's a lot of steps on the learning ladder, and I think that goes for everything. You know, cooking is just a good analog there. Now, I know I'm opening myself up to criticism because my average lunch, and indeed probably the lunch that I will have today as well, is a tortilla, and then I put some cooked chicken breast in the center, maybe a little bit of yellow mustard, and roll it up. You know, that's a convenience thing. But at the same time, especially over the past like 2 or 3 months, I do the bulk of the cooking in the household. You know, I don't think it's a split between like, you know, I identify as a chef, so I can't possibly eat that, or like the alternative is like, oh, I can't cook, so I just eat garbage all the time. Sometimes I eat, you know, stuff that is not a culinary marvel, just out of convenience's sake. But also, you know, I go check out, I don't even know what the meal we had. I mean, it does come in the meal prep service, but, you know, it was some kind of, I don't want to say weird, I guess. That's a little bit of a value judgment. But it was like a Mexican pancake. It would be the way that I would describe it. Or like a Mexican flatbread. And then on top of that, you have like, you know, homemade pico de gallo and essentially carne asada. While I was making it, you know, you got like corn flour, and you're working it into a dough, and then eventually you're gonna turn it into a freaking flatbread. You're gonna fry that to the proper consistency, and then you know, you're gonna plate that with the carne asada and pico de gallo on top of it. And you know, at no point did I go, this is beyond my weight class. I just went, you know, it's all transferable skills that I learned from making terrible dishes in college. And watching a lot of Good Eats. Anyway, I'm now using cooking as a metaphor for life. And, you know, this isn't Ratatouille, so let's not go down that road. It's more like a Julie and Julia sort of situation, or an Eat, Pray, Love. I haven't seen any of these movies. All right, take me away. I'm ready. I'm just saying. You're 16, 17, 18, I don't care. I mean, it's never too late, you know? Like that 3 Days Grace song. Not too late, it's never too late. Of course I know 3 Days Grace. I'm Canadian. Moreover, from Ontario. Do I like them? Absolutely not. But still, you gotta respect the CanCon. If you're, you know, it's the same metaphor I always use if you're a picky eater, you know? Just because you're 25, you're a picky eater, it doesn't mean you were a born picky eater. You know, there's still a chance for you. Go try some morel mushrooms. Yuck, okay. Not for you right now. Go get some Brussels sprouts in there. Not everything can be dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets, okay? We gotta build that diverse palate. It's all a skill right off the bat. Or it's a skill you gotta build, not something you have right off the bat, I mean. So that's a new low for me, using the Fool card just to... Don't you do it, dude. Just to not inconvenience myself anymore. Is this an XL floor? It's not even an XL floor. This run will be a win, mostly I think due to our HP, but it's got something, you know, there's a what if in this run. What if we had not squandered that deal with the devil from fighting Super Pin? You think, you know, we could have gotten the stats required to take us to greatness instead of just merely surviving? I mean, Magic Mush is amazing as well, don't get me wrong, but... Anyway, the other piece of life advice I have is don't take life advice from Twitch streamers. Most of us, you know, wake up at like noon and then, you know, somebody in chat goes, you got a big bald forehead, and then we're like, sorry boys, I gotta cancel the stream today. Online toxicity. But, you know, oh, I didn't realize Spider Mod froze you. But, like, listen to me specifically, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like, all the other Twitch streamers, I don't know if they got it figured out. But me personally, yeah, absolutely. No bias, by the way. Okay, give me Blood Clot. I don't really want to give up Shoop to Whoop. I love Shoop to Whoop. So close. I was hoping it was the Emperor, because, like, I think we're kind of in the position where we just want to book it at this point. Our chance to... Oh, again, dude. Our chances largely hinge on our booking it factor. AKA run for it, Marty. Anyway, you know what I should have talked about more. I've been loving Sekiro. I've having an amazing time with that game. You know what well, there's two things I like most about Sekiro right now. One is, I'm just kind of sick of the Souls formula being followed as religiously as it was for 1, 2, and 3. And that's not meant to be like a slight. But like Dark Souls 3 is basically like... And I like Dark Souls 1 more, but Dark Souls 3 is basically like, hey, here's like Dark Souls 1 refined, let's say. It's, you know, it hits a lot of the same beats. Like, a lot of the same beats. Sekiro, I really feel like they've been unchained from their previous record deal. And now they're free to make something that's a little fresher, while still having the hallmarks of what made those games so exciting. And I really think, you know, like Dark Souls is a really exciting game when you go back. And it's hard to put yourself in those shoes of where people were at, you know, 6 or 7 years ago when they were playing through Dark Souls for the first time. But, you know, people were excited. They were like, look at this! You know, I ain't never seen a boss like this before, you know? And I think Sekiro does a great job of kind of putting From, you know, back into that position. And the other thing is, I love seeing what they're doing with a story that's a little bit more linear. Like, I actually really like the way that Souls stories go, because they're more about establishing atmosphere and tone than they are about, you know, telling a linear story the whole way through. Now, you can obviously, you know, you can fill in the blanks yourself if you want to in a Souls game, but you also don't have to. You know, you can just read item descriptions and be like, I get it, we're contributing to a macabre environment with very, very brief glimpses that are fleeting of happiness and fulfillment. I kind of like that Sekiro so far seems to be maintaining like a lot of the mystery. I was going to say mysterious and change it at the last second. A lot of the mysterious elements that that make, you know, Souls and Bloodborne so interesting narratively. Oh my lord, dude. While also being a little bit more on the nose, like telling a story a little bit more conventionally, I think is a good way to describe it. And I love the combat mechanics. And I think the reason that, you know, maybe for me it's been a little bit easier to get adjusted to the combat mechanics is because I'm just a better gamer than most other people. That's clear, based on my performance in this episode, for sure. No, but I think it's that I played Bloodborne recently. So, you know, the idea of being aggressive in a Souls game is not, is not foreign to me, or is not, you know, like in the distant past. Like, I played Bloodborne through less than a year ago, and we beat all of the crap in Bloodborne. You can nameless king me for Dark Souls 3 until the end of time. You have my permission because you were doing it even when you didn't have my permission, so I might as well get on the winning side here. But we did everything in Bloodborne. We killed, you know, the really, really tough, you know, some people have called him the toughest boss in the entire Soulsborne series. So I ain't no Bloodborne slouch. Anyway, that game, I'm surprised by how many early GOTY candidates I got so far. You know, John Gotti, the GOTY Memorial Game of the Year Award. Like Tetris 99, deliberately up there. I can't believe I played 60-something hours of a Tetris game in 2019 so far. Slay the Spire, gotta love it. I got 500 hours of that friggin' game. It's the greatest game, except maybe for these other ones that I'm mentioning. And then, you know, Sekiro is scratching that. Like, I feel like right now, I feel about Sekiro the way that people who truly love God of War feel about God of War. Where whenever anybody makes any criticism towards Sekiro, I'm like, no, the problem is that you're wrong and the game is blameless. Like, I've become a Sekiro zealot, and it's a very not great look because I'm so early on in the game still, but it's scratching the itches for sure. Anyway, it's been good, dude. And you know what else? I know, like, it may be not so gauche for a member of the media to be like breathlessly excited about something, but a series of games I have liked a lot in the very small amount I've played, but have not played as much as I would like, is the SteamWorld games. The new SteamWorld game, and I forget the name of it, but they're all, you know, there's SteamWorld Dig, SteamWorld Dig 2, SteamWorld Heist. This one is a deck builder in the same vein as an Ascension, Dominion, or Slay the Spire. But from a developer that has and this is not anything against Megacrit, who have done a wonderful job with Slay the Spire, but from a developer that has a pedigree for already making, like, amazing games. So, this one, I finally think they've made one that seems to scratch the itch that I have. And they announced it's coming out, like, the end of April, and I'm like, dude, it's... 2019 is, dare I say, am I allowed to say it? I'm 30 years old. It's lit so far, dude. It has been an extremely lit year for video games, in my opinion. Help. He did beneath the laser, dude. Catherine Zeta-Jones. I'm just saying, it's cool. You know what I would love more than any item right now is just an Emperor card. Oh. We put in the work on this one. We did squander things to some extent, but we also, like, I do feel like pretty much every floor we went down with, like, exactly the conditions that could squander a deal with the devil for us. We went down with, like, one spirit heart. And then, you know, an enemy was like, boom, gotcha! There's still a little fragility here. Must be Italian. But we're well enough off to be in a pretty good spot. Short of an Emperor card, because there's no way we could ever, you know, bet the farm on getting one of those right away. I would mostly like to see... I mean, obviously, like, 4 good DPS items would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's a gimme, more or less. Can I tell you the other thing that's bothered me a little bit about Sekiro? And this is not to throw anybody under the bus, because there's an obvious counter-argument to this. The counter-argument to this is, what, we're not allowed to criticize things anymore? And no, that's not what I'm trying to get across. But, you know, we get in this weird cycle where I'm criticizing criticism, and then you're going to criticize my criticizing of criticism, and then, you know, is that really how we want to spend our days? You know, is circle jerking around the drain here? I don't think so. But I've noticed this in a lot of the criticism or response to Sekiro. I'm just going to wait this one out, honestly. What I've noticed is that people will say things like, I like Sekiro, but, and then they'll make like 9 tweets in that chain that are like, the AI is stupid and the hitboxes are bad, and there's one specific enemy where he tracks you so bad he turns 90 degrees midair. And, you know, I really feel like I don't like the fact that you have to tackle multiple enemies, but I like the game, but I really, like, and I think you have to accept that even though those criticisms may be valid, and I think some of them are valid and some of them are a little reductive, honestly, particularly complaints about enemy AI. I agree wholeheartedly. There's an enemy very early on in Sekiro that essentially is unfair in the way he tracks you. But also, you know, my galaxy brain take is always like, just, like, don't get good necessarily, but just, like, you know, beat him and then, like, move on. Why are we still talking about, like, this one specific enemy from the early game? But anyway, it's more that, like, I feel a personal connection to this kind of criticism, because I worry that this is the legacy of YouTube. Is that, you know, as YouTubers, there's definitely, as gaming YouTubers specifically, part of speaking to your audience is, unfortunately, maybe taking on, like, an air of cynicism. And people, and, you know, I'm not looking to assign blame to the audience or the creator here, but there's a fairly large subset of people that watch gaming videos on YouTube that, whether they're aware of it or not, only think you're being credible when you're saying negative things. When you're saying positive things, they think that, I'm not saying they explicitly think that you're being paid to have your opinion. I'm interested to see how this works, by the way. But they take your opinion as a little bit less legitimate because of your positivity. Yo, this is an amazing synergy. And as a result, I feel like a lot of YouTubers, and I try to fight back against this myself as well, by being positive when I feel positive. But I feel like it's kind of conditioned YouTubers, again, myself included, to say more negative things than positive things, even in situations where you feel very positive about something, because otherwise your opinion is taken as illegitimate. Like, you know, if you just say something like, I really like Sekiro, I think it's awesome, people are like, oh, Resident Sleeper. But if you say, like, I really like Sekiro, but the AI is pretty dumb, people are like, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like, I've talked about this before specifically, but it's like one of my least favorite kinds of criticism. It's like you say, I like something, but one complaint. And then people are like, well, if he had just said he liked it, I wouldn't have believed him. But because he threw in one complaint there, Black Panther was really good, but the what are those joke was pretty bad. You know, it's like, he's looking at both sides of the issue fairly. And that's like short-circuited my brain to think that this opinion is more legitimate than other opinions. That was pretty much a direct knock on Austin for the Black Panther tweet. I mean, it was basically like his tweet specifically. So I apologize. But it just popped up. It's no hard feelings are meant. And moreover, I think, you know, it's a mature discussion to have, you know? You know, and it's not fair to say, like, you should just always be positive. That's why I tried to get out in front of that earlier. But, like, I guess where I get annoyed, or not even annoyed, but what's the word I'm looking for here? Tired. I'm looking for like a better, more specific word for like just tired of this specific thing. If you can bust out thezoras.com. Woebegone? I don't know. That might be a little bit too extreme. Is the idea that like you always, even if you, no matter how you feel about anything, you always have to say one positive thing, one negative thing, one positive thing, one negative thing. I think this game's a 10 out of 10, but the music on this level kind of sucks, but the combat's really good, but the animation on the, you know, Octoroks is jacked up. It just leads to very boring criticism, in my opinion. I would much rather have somebody say, like, I'm having a love affair with this game. It's not perfect, but here's all the things I love about it. Or on the alternative fact, somebody that's like, this game has a lot of good things about it, but I hate it, and here's all the things I hate about it. I think it's a piece of garbage. I prefer enthusiastic criticism in one direction or the other, as long as it's also honest, instead of just like, I don't want it just feels like you're compromising sometimes, I guess, is where it comes at to me, is you're like, I really love this thing, but I want to say some negative things so people actually believe me. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. What do I know at the end of the day? For now, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal, and of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya!